This is Tuesdays with Ted. That's me. And I'm sharing with you everything that I know in hopes that you can elevate your life. So today we're talking about mindfulness, and I always start, just because it takes a little time for people to kind of connect and come on and listen, so I always start with a little story. So for me, mindfulness started probably back over 20 years ago. Those of you that know my story, you know I come from a family that was a little bit rough growing up, a little bit rough around the edges growing up, and had my bout with addiction and cleaned myself up, without getting into too many details, about almost 25 years ago. And for me, I started kind of searching and seeking and figuring out what meditation was way back then. So this was kind of even in high school too, like late 80s, early 90s, and started to, Tibet was kind of popular around that time, at least for me in my life. So I started really searching into Buddhism and different kinds of meditation, and started what I would consider my soul searching. Merrick says the sound is a little muffled. Is it still a little muffled, Merrick? I'm just looking at that. Merrick, tell me if the sound is a little muffled. If not, what we could do is unplug that and plug it in again. But anyway, so we'll see what he says. But so for me, essentially what happened was I started to meditate a little bit, and the way that happened was that I would go home and I would relax, and I would play some music, and I would put on some candles, and I'd lie in my bed and I would just chill out. And that was my way of actually being mindful and starting this meditation process, right? And then I continue to seek and search and figure out, all kinds of different things that would work for me to help keep me calm. Because part of my upbringing, there was a lot of noise and a lot of chaos happening around. So I had to find this place inside myself to actually calm down. So that music the music and the creating that environment was the way that I was able to actually do it. So eventually I thought, I need to step up. I need to take my meditation game to the next level. And I said, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit on this, bench, and I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes. That was it, for 10 minutes. And excuse me, and I closed my eyes, I lit a nice little candle, I relaxed, and I just meditated for 10 minutes. And it was totally silent, there was no music, there was no nothing, and slowly but surely I was going, and I started to get a little bit more frustrated and a little bit more frustrated and a little bit more frustrated, and ultimately I woke up, didn't wake up, but I opened my eyes at 9 minutes and 43 seconds. And I'll never forget that number. It always sticks in my brain because I was unable to make it to 10 minutes. But what it did was it cracked the code for me. And that started my regular meditation practice. And I slowly but surely built more and more. I built from 10 minutes. I finally got to my 10 minutes from 9 minutes and 43 seconds to 10 to 15 to 20 to 30 minutes. And I would crave this silence. I would crave that sense of peace. And I'd go out to nature, and sound has improved very well. Thanks, Jeff. So I would go to nature, and I would just sit, and I'd listen to the wind, and I'd listen to the birds, and I would just pay attention. And so I kind of started my life of mindfulness, of being mindful. And I'm not perfect by any means. I mean, you can talk to my wife. She'll tell you, you're the first one to get distracted by the phone. And I try my best. But that was kind of the beginning. The beginning was forcing myself into a situation where I could actually sit for a little time. And then once I broke that code, then I was able to do it on a regular basis because it became more comfortable. Now I sit, and when I sit, I just sit up tall, I relax, and I immediately connect into that place inside that for me I believe we all have this inside us. We all have a place that's peaceful inside, that's calm, that's relaxed, that is stable and secure. And I think one of the reasons why meditation is having, its moment now and is becoming so much more popular is because there is so much more information and there is so much more chaos and different things coming at us, from families to jobs to information from phones and many different devices and all these kinds of things. So it even becomes more important now to have that sense of stability, right? I mean, I teach yoga for a living. And one of the great things about the yoga practice is it forces you to be in the moment. We're putting you in all kinds of different poses so that you can forget about what else is going on and forget about all the little stresses that happen on a daily basis, and you can focus on that particular pose for as long as you're in the pose and then move on. But it's a way to kind of check out of the daily stresses that you have in life. So for me, one way that I like to meditate is first thing in the morning. So first thing in the morning, I get up, I brush my teeth, I sit down, and I just close my eyes, because the mind starts right away, for me anyway. And all I do is I sit for, minimum would be 5 minutes, but I usually try to get a good 20-minute meditation in on a daily basis. And sometimes it's tough. There is no perfect way. There is no, I've been through all kinds of different, I've been to the top of the mountain and back. I remember this one time I was on this Hawaii healing tour, and we had a guy with us who, his whole thing, he was an Aboriginal healer, and he'd be waving peacock feathers and like whacking people on the head. And another guy had crystals, and he was doing all kinds of stuff. And I look, I believe in anything as long as I feel like it's authentic. And I think there's some people who are crazy, and some people who are quacks out there, and some people who are really legit healers, and they totally understand what's going on. So for me, it's really about you. And it's about finding that inside. Yeah, people are saying it's really staticky. Mike is really staticky, hard to hear. So let's pull this out then. I'm just going to pull this out. How about that? Let me know if that is. I'll move a little closer and make sure that you guys can hear it. The sound just got fuzzy again, Jeff says. But Jeff, you had your good sound earlier. Let's see everybody else. I wonder if it was fuzzy because of the chainsaw. Well, we'll wait a second because there's a little bit of a delay. But anyway, so for me, ultimately it's about kind of creating that sense of peace inside. Oh yeah, okay, good, thanks. All right, perfect, great, much better. There we go, excellent. So the iPhone works just fine. Who needs these crazy $1,000 microphones? Anyway, so ultimately for me it's about creating mindfulness, is about creating that sense of peace inside. So how do I do that? Sit, right? The basics for meditation, simply sitting, closing your eyes, breathing. There's 3 fundamentals to meditation. And by the way, I am happy to answer questions for you guys. If you have questions, I'm kind of peeking over at my computer so I can see the thread. So I'm always happy to, answer any questions that you guys have. But otherwise, I'm just kind of sharing what I know, what works for me, and hopefully it'll work for you. So the basics for meditation: straight spine, even breath, and a single pointed focus. So I sit up nice and straight, I close my eyes, I focus on the breathing, I also focus on relaxing. Sometimes we hold tension, unconsciously we hold tension, we hold it in the jaw, we hold it in the fingertips, we hold it in the face, we hold it in the scalp, in the ears, and the shoulders. So if that's you, if you notice sometimes in the tongue, I'll never forget the first time I learned that I was holding tension in the tongue. My tongue was like pressing into the roof of the mouth, and I was like, oh my gosh, how long has that been going on? It must have been going on for years because I was not even aware of it. So just notice, just take a body scan. So, the topic is mindfulness, which ultimately is a form of meditation. There's transcendental meditation. There's a million different kinds of meditation. And I'm giving you the basics of meditation, how I do it, which is a form of mindfulness. And ultimately, hopefully, that will help you to become a little bit more mindful. Now, mindfulness in general, kind of the definition that you would say if there was one of mindfulness, is really attention. Intention and attitude. So attention, like paying attention to whatever it is you're doing. Right now, I'm talking to you guys. You know, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and we're recording this so that we can use it for later. So I'm sharing with you right now, that's what's happening. I'm not really worried about all the other things that could be going on, even though my mind is kind of out there as well. But the idea is when you're doing something, that's the thing that you're doing. Like, for instance, way back when I started my yoga career as a practitioner, as a student, I remember reading all these books and all these gurus, and they were at their ashram, and it was, you know, it was when you're doing dishes, do dishes, right? And you know, when you're getting dressed, get dressed. And it was, you were like, but that's so simple. It's so simple. But that's the bottom line. Mindfulness is simple. And it's funny because I remember at one time I thought, well, you really can't be anywhere but the moment. Like there's no way you can be anywhere but where you are right now. You can't. It's physically impossible. Until we are able to replicate ourselves and be in two places at once, you can't be anywhere but right here, right now. Now, your mind may be thinking about something other than what's happening in the moment. So that's where I think the distraction comes in. But if you understand that you can't be anywhere but right here, right now, it's impossible, then you don't get caught up in all this stuff about, oh, people are distracted all the time. I mean, obviously you don't want to be driving and texting, right? You don't want to be walking across a big intersection and not see the lights, so you might get hit by a car. I mean, there are certain things you have to pay attention to fully. So that maybe there's different degrees of paying attention, right? So mindfulness, attention, and then intention. So what are you thinking about? Shell is asking, any meditation workouts coming from Beachbody? I don't know. I haven't heard that. I will let you know if I do. But intention is all about the intention you set before you practice. So for me, every single yoga class, I always set an intention. And my intention can be something as simple as like, oh, my shoulder hurts. My intention is to heal my shoulder in this yoga practice. Or my intention is to, just give something to everyone I see during the day, whether that's a smile or a hug or just a thought, or my intention is world peace, or whatever it is for you. My intention is to relax if I'm stressed out. My intention is to heal. I always give the suggestions of healing, de-stressing, or strengthening. Those are kind of three things I always give as a suggestion. But it depends on what you're going through in life as far as your intention. So ultimately, for my meditations in the morning, my intention is always to kind of handle whatever life has to offer that day with grace. And that's ultimately my intention for the day, most times, unless there's something specific that I'm working on. And then the attitude. So in mindfulness, attention, intention, attitude. And for me, attitude is we all know positive attitude just helps you live longer, you're happier, you're way better off having a positive attitude than having a negative attitude. That I think goes without saying, but it's more than that for me. Attitude is more about really squeezing the juice. I've said this before, but it's like squeezing the juice out of every moment of life. So we have this one life. Today is January 17th, 2017. So 1/17/17. And that's it. It happens right now, one time, that's it. So if this was your final moment, would you just be living fully? Is ultimately the question that I ask myself, that I'd like for you to ask yourself, is, are you living fully? Are there things that you can do? So you have to think about, when you look back on your life years from now, will you be happy with how you lived? Will you be happy with the choices that you made? Will you be ecstatic, not just happy, but will you be like, oh my God, that was like the most amazing life that I could have possibly created. I did it. I created it. There is a sense of accomplishment when you set out to do something and you actually do it, and then look back and go, wow. When I'm on a bike ride or a run, or and I look back at the hill that I just climbed, it feels good. It feels good to be strong, and it feels good to be able to trail run and to be able to climb up a hill on a bike or a run or whatever it is, and I get to look back. And that same thing is how I want to live my life, with that kind of attitude, and that like just I want to take it by the horns and I want to live it to the best of my ability, and ultimately, help you guys do the same thing. I mean, we all really should kind of stick together, and we should all live in that way. I think that's just my personal belief. So that's mindfulness kind of in a nutshell, right? It's the paying attention and then setting your intention and having a great attitude along the way. So back to the original plan about sort of the mindfulness basics, right? The meditation basics. So sitting up nice and tall, following your breath, and then having a single pointed focus. So this is super important. The single pointed focus is thinking about one thought. So traditionally it's about the third eye center. So many of you know in yoga, there's the chakras, right? The energy centers: crown chakra, third eye center, throat center, heart center, solar plexus, and you think about the third eye center upon meditation. And this is your chakra that's about thinking, about thought, about intuition. And you don't have to. Again, that's just a suggestion, but you can think about the beach, you can think about the top of a mountain, you can think about the swing that you had when you were a kid. So it doesn't really matter so much. I always prefer to think about something pleasant, because for me it's important to have pleasant thoughts. I want pleasant thoughts, but I could think about negative stuff, or I could think about positive stuff. So I choose to think about more positive things. So for me, it's about sitting up tall, finding my breath, relaxing my body, and then thinking about that one particular point. And it changes for me, but mostly I just go right here. Sometimes I go to top of a mountain I've been on, or I'll just bring myself to the beach and I'll just sit and just visually kind of observe the waves and my thoughts along there. And ultimately for me, the next thing that happens is I get distracted, right? I get distracted by the trucks that go by. I get distracted by the guys working in the property next door. I get distracted by the delay, because I'm looking at the comments here, and then I see myself in the video and there's a little delay. So sometimes that's a little distracting, but then I come back to my breathing, and then I try to relax a little bit more, and I reconnect with that place inside. And that's it. In a nutshell, that's it. It's about finding your sense of peace and your sense of solitude and your sense of relax. There's so many things in life that are going to stress us out. And I've said this over and over again. It's never about what happens to us in life. It's all about how we deal with what happens to us. So many people over the course of my life will come up with different stories like, oh, he just broke up with me, or she did this, or, they did that, right? And I mean, politics is like the worst, right? Because everybody's blaming the other side for something. But the bottom line is, it's really all comes from inside. So there's a great story about the time when I was in India. So there was this woman, and we're not going to go too much longer, but there was about 17 people, and I was leading this group through India. So I wasn't teaching yoga, but there's two other teachers in New York, Stacy and Bryn, if you're watching. Hi, Stacy and Bryn. Hope you guys are well. This is almost 10 years ago now, this retreat. So we went from Delhi to Agra to Varanasi to Mumbai to Kerala and back again. It was a crazy trip. But there was in Varanasi, if you've ever been there, it's very chaotic. Our tour guide basically says, I tell people when they come to India that they should just picture themselves going back in time 200 years, because there's cows walking around and it's dirty, and there's no environmental restrictions, so there's lots of honking and exhaust and everything, and it's kind of a crazy town. So I'm sitting there and I'm just watching the people on the retreat, because I'm keeping my eye on 17 people, and I'm making sure that everyone's okay, and everyone's kind of, they were getting cash out of the ATM, and that's fine, and it's kind of dusty and dirty, and I'm just observing. this particular corner in Varanasi. And I noticed out of the corner of my eye this woman who is doing a puja. So a puja is essentially an invocation of a god. She happened to have a statue of Ganesh. Ganesh is the elephant god. Maybe some of you guys have seen there. And he's the god of wisdom, or the remover of obstacles, sometimes people have called him, but he's ultimately the wisdom to understand which obstacles to go around and which ones to go through. So anyway, so she does this. She has a little bell, and she's kind of, she does this little thing, and she walks around this light post, and the statue is a small statue in like a little shelf on the light post, and she walks around the statue ringing her little bell. And I see her doing this. I'm like, oh wow, there she is, And she just kept walking around, doing her little thing, and her smile just kept getting bigger and bigger. And she just had this little piece, and she was doing her little prayer, and she was ringing her little bell, and she was going around. And I thought, oh my gosh, like in the midst of this chaos and dirt and disgust, ultimately. I mean, it's really bad. Environmentally speaking, and just hygienically speaking, and it's bad. And she found this place of elation, of peace, and of happiness. And at that moment, I knew that happiness, that's it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. I've been told this my entire life. Happiness comes from within, right? Even in the Bible, they talk about the kingdom of heaven comes from within. Well, it's true. I mean, it can, and then you start to realize, oh, wait a second, yeah. I mean, it's not from the house, it's not from the car, it's not from the spouse, it's not from the kids, it's not from your latest toy, right? It can only come from inside. And so mindfulness, for me, I thought to myself that night, I thought to myself, man, if I go back to America and I get arrogant about something, and I get, upset about something, like, I have no right, because we have such an abundant life in this world, in this culture, that it's crazy. I mean, it's unbelievable. And just to stay grateful and to realize that true sense of self, your true sense of who you are and your sense of happiness has to come from inside. So that means that if you're not happy for some reason, or not content, let's just forget the word happy, but just use the word content. If you're not content and peaceful on the inside, there's something wrong inside. It has nothing to do with outside or the latest iPhone, right? It has to do with you and what's going on inside and internally. And that's why mindfulness is so important. And that's why meditation is so important, because ultimately you're working on the inside. You're working on an internal job, an internal message, right? And it's so easy for us to be outside with the phones and the computer and this and that and the toys and the things and what we think is right. But I want you to drop down, and I want you to start feeling more. I want you to start feeling more. Does it feel right? Right? Does it feel okay? Is there like a big smile here? And then hopefully that big smile here translates to here, right? So that is my message for you today, my friends, is to be mindful, to use those very simple techniques, sitting up tall, closing your eyes, finding your breath, using that tool of the mental exercise. That mental exercise will also help you increase your muscle of concentration, your muscle of focus. And if you start to do it a little bit more regularly, what I want you to do next is I want you to pay attention to the thoughts between the space between the thoughts, right? That's the next step. So the next step, and we'll talk more about this, and we'll definitely do some more. So I thank you very much for watching. I actually created a little something called the 7-day meditation, which starts off with 3 free videos and then goes up. I'll put a link in the comments down below. If any of you are interested, you can do that. We kind of take this and we take it deeper, and I teach you like 10 different forms of meditation. But I'm always here for you to answer any questions that you may have. So please feel free. Thank you so much for watching. You can subscribe down below and share this with your friends, and have a wonderful Tuesday afternoon. And I will see you again next week, where we talk about nutrition, and my wife will be our guest. Thanks, guys.